Okay, in lesson 2, we're going to talk about analyzing the structure of a literary text. So there's different types of structures. There's linear structure, which, like a line, it just goes in the order, the chronological order of the events. So it's like a timeline, and so everything happens in sequence. And then there's nonlinear structure, and that's where it might flash forward or backward in time. Okay. There's parallel structure, and that's where multiple storylines unfold at the same time. And then you have circular structure, and that's where the action starts in the present, then it might pause at a point of high tension and then flashes back in time, and it fills in all the events in chronological order that happen up until the current time, and then proceeds on with the story and finishes up the story from there. So let's go ahead and watch a short video on the different structures, and it also will talk about the elements of the plot in this video so that you can kind of understand how everything relates to one another.
We've been telling stories for thousands of years. From ancient oral traditions that spread folktales, ballads, and prose, to modern literature and television broadcast directly into our homes, we are drawn to stories with dramatic arcs that evoke emotion within us, both exciting and frightening. But how do we write an interesting narrative arc that keeps readers engaged? Let's find out. Hey guys, I'm Emma with ServiceScape and welcome back to Write On. Today we're going to talk about the narrative arc and how to build a memorable story in a few easy steps. To start, let's touch on some different types of narrative structures, all of which are different ways a story can unfold. The different types of narrative structures include linear or chronological, nonlinear or fractured, circular, parallel, and interactive, all of which can be used to emphasize certain themes or ideas within your story. Linear or chronological stories are told in the order in which events occur. Most books follow this structure. The journey from point A in the story to point B is, with the exception of the occasional flashback, uninterrupted. In contrast, nonlinear or fractured stories are told out of traditional sequence. They jump throughout the timeline of your story and often switch from character to character. Joseph Heller's Catch-22 is a great example of this type of storytelling, as the story is broken up between different characters as well as between the past and future at the whim of the author. Then there are circular narrative structures that start and end in the same way, although characters are often changed by the events that lead to the story's end. For example, in S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, the novel begins and ends with the same sentence, the last sentence and therefore the entire book revealing that the story is an essay the main character Ponyboy has been writing for school. There are parallel structures that follow multiple storylines that share characters, themes, or events, like The Great Gatsby, whose plot is a constant source of thematic parallels, and even interactive structures that give the reader the ability to make the choices, the most popular being choose-your-own-adventure books, and now even interactive video media like Black Mirror's Bandersnatch. Each of these styles of narrative structure have their own benefits to your story, and deciding which one to use is dependent upon what your story needs. But how do we determine that? This is where the narrative arc comes in. Regardless of narrative structure, the narrative arc is always present in some way or another. It was created by a novelist named Gustav Freytag in the 19th century, who developed the pyramid-shaped diagram as a means of describing the structure of fiction that storytellers have been using for thousands of years. Referred to as Freytag's pyramid, the diagram consists of 5 key stages that make up a story: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Exposition is the beginning of the story, the part where you describe the first scene or the characters and their world. It's where you begin to reveal parts of the world that you've built to your readers. Lord of the Rings is one of the most popular examples of exposition, and J.R.R. Tolkien's exposition extends through multiple chapters of his series, detailing everything from politics to language. On the other side of the spectrum is C.S. Lewis and his Chronicles of Narnia series, where the reader is thrown straight into a fantastical world, leaving details to be discovered as the story unfolds. Both approaches have their own benefits and rely mostly on what you, as the author, think your readers absolutely need to know about the world and characters you've built before engaging with your story. Next on the pyramid comes the rising action, or the main basis of the story. Characters begin to interact and new characters are introduced into the mix. This is where you draw your reader in with excitement and depth. Tensions rise and obstacles begin to emerge, and in the midst of this activity, your character develops. Pieces of their history, inner struggle, or other characteristics can be revealed, and this can either be a detriment to them or a benefit. Including these pieces of information will engage your readers, giving them not only details to attach themselves to your characters, but also more anticipation about events at the height of the story. From there, we move on to the top of the arc, or the climax. It's the pivotal part of the story where the protagonist faces the opposing force in an attempt to overcome their conflict. Here, the story reaches its most intense point, and the result of the protagonist's journey is revealed, for better or for worse, depending on what your plotline needs. For instance, a villain could reveal their true purpose as something that your character hasn't uncovered yet. Take Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, for instance, where Harry's confrontation with Professor Quirrell reveals that he's being controlled by Lord Voldemort. This moment is built up slowly throughout the exposition and rising action, the main character's own histories and research leading to discoveries that bring them closer to the climax of the story. It's important that your climax connects to everything that you as the author have built in the two previous key points of the arc in order to make the payoff more satisfying to your reader. Next comes the falling action. This is where the characters come down from the top of the narrative arc and lead the story through the changes resulting from the events of the climax. This could be a return to the new reality the characters face after the results of the rising action and climax, deflating the tension and leading to the resolution. And at the resolution, you can start asking yourself how your story is going to end. Do the characters succeed or fail? Will they start a new life? Do they die? Did they learn something? Regardless of how your story ends, it's important to keep in mind that these key points are a starting point and serve to help you with the basic organization of your plot and timing of particular reveals. Like any good writing tool, it's flexible and meant to be easy to understand and customize for your own story's needs. Freytag's pyramid in particular can be expanded upon, and you can add more details between each point to help you plot your story. We have an in-depth article about narrative arc on our website that goes into further detail if you're interested. I'll leave a link in the description below. It's important to keep in mind, though, this is not the only way to organize your plot. Some writers prefer note cards, mood boards, pre-made templates, lists, outlines, plain timelines, or even a mix of different approaches. It's all a matter of finding what works for you. The art of storytelling is ever-changing and challenging. Although billions of stories have been told over the course of human existence, there will always be room for more. And by finding the right tools to help you build your narrative arcs, you're one step closer to sharing stories of your own. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give us a like and check out our channel. And if there are any topics you'd like to see covered in a future video, leave a comment below. See you next time.